Welcome to the Knock and Talk podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Anchi.
And I'm Professor D.
Okay, so last time on the podcast, we talked a little bit about college. So, Professor D, it's my impression when we're talking private that you think college is a scam. Is that accurate?
That is a bit of a harsh statement, but I'd have to agree to that to some extent. From my personal view, I mean, I just don't need college that much. I'm someone that really prioritizes knowledge over many things, learning things. That's one of my favorite things to do in my free time. And in this age of the internet, where you have the world's greatest library to ever exist in all of human history, it's definitely I say with confidence that I think college can definitely be substituted with the internet. And that's of course not for everybody. I mean, we have all different types of people. We have people that prioritize knowledge more, people that want credibility, or people that just want money. And you would see that really everybody is not absolute. They're a combination of the three things. Because what college is conceptually, it's a place where you learn. But to add on to that, it's also a place that gives you an assurance of credibility. Right? It gives you that piece of paper that the degree, right, that tells you that you've learned this, that you're capable of these abilities, that you know these things, and that's why people need college so much. Okay, aside from the college life that so many teenagers love, and that's why they like to move away. They also want to get a job. They want to get money, and in order to do that, they need their employers to know that they have some abilities. I don't think knowledge is that much of a priority among a lot of kids today. It's more of a factor of just those two, credibility and money. But for people like me, I still love to learn, but it's not only learning. I want to get a degree. I want to be earning a considerable amount of money. I don't want to be stinking rich, but just some money so I can at least have best way I can describe it, a cozy life. That's simple enough, right? Aside from that, college, I know it's kind of talked about a little too much these days, but it's just something that needs to be, I thought needs to be addressed and kind of compartmentalized to who are in regards to who are the applicants, right? Who is applying to college? And one of the most important things I want to make note of is when people are writing their college essays, it's a whole lot of confirmation bias, right? Especially when it comes to Ivies. You always have people that are, the college applicants who are saying, yes, I want to go here and this, and it's perfect for me. I fit in so well. Look at all, and then they list a bunch of extracurriculars that they've, dedicated more time to writing down the resume than in reality, than in real life. So that's my take on it. To me, it's a scam because due to my social circumstances, due to my to the expectations of my family, my friends, and society, for me to get a job, for me to get a good salary, that I need to go to college, and for that, I think it's a scam. But not everybody, of course. And that was my monologue. Okay, so Angie, what's your take on this?
Okay, so okay, that's a lot of information. I feel like I'm the same way with the knowledge stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know when it was, but definitely a couple of years ago, I decided one of my life things is that I want to know the most about. I want to know everything about anything. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So I want to know a lot of stuff.
Well, why did you want it? Like, was it just some intrinsic curiosity that just kept poking at your mind, or was it the fact that you want to know a lot of things that pushed you?
No, I think it's the intrinsic thing.
Yeah, it's always poking at your mind, because for me, right, it's a good thing to be smart, I suppose, but I just think it's a bit glorified in our society, where we romanticize being smart, and especially if you're in a couple or something, and you're both smart. That's why the couple is just better in general. I think that's a bit ridiculous. I think learning things is just something that everyone has to do. Everyone has to do, right? And I'm kind of surprised when I see so many people that really never go out and test the waters. They have no interest to learn about this or that. And I suppose maybe I just don't know them too well, but that's just from my perception what I see, and it's just a bit surprising.
Okay, yeah. The thing is, I don't know. It's like I want to learn a lot of stuff because there's a practical application
Mm-hmm.
to all the knowledge, like including skills and stuff like that. Like you see in these books
Mm-hmm.
here or whatever, right? But
Really, I don't see I don't really it doesn't.
if we have all the knowledge, right, about like how we talk about philosophical things,
Mhm.
like we talk about anarchy, right? We
Okay.
talk about free will. We talk about right and wrong, like moral stuff, like veganism, right?
Okay.
If we have all the knowledge based on that, we can lead more moral lives, increase overall well-being to the most we can. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If we know all that stuff, you know what I'm
You
saying?
see,
If we know what makes people do bad things or something like that and makes them
Mhm.
do good things, we can help.
while I do support that, like living moral lives, when I pursue something, when I'm curious about something, none of that is in my mind. And the only reason I pursue something is because I'm simply curious. What's on the other side of the door?
Okay.
Right? I don't go that far as you do, and I guess that's why my interests kind of span a lot of wider, a lot of different interests. I mean, some stuff I just do it because it's interesting to me, not because it somehow benefits the way I live,
Okay. I see.
or it might benefit the way other people live. Like I go out to the park and I study some plants simply because I see it all the time,
Right.
and I would love to know how it grows. I would love to know how it dies, or like what soil type it likes. It doesn't help anybody except me, and the fact that I know how that works now.
Right. True. I find that very interesting too. Like it's like you seem more curious about those things. I'm more because you have an interest in them, right? But
Mhm.
you're curious about random things. It seems, but I'm like I have an interest because
Focused on utility.
because of something. Yeah, well, yeah, usually. But what you just said remind me when we're in the forest together, right?
Mhm.
Hiking or exploring or whatever, right? And you look at the tree rings and you tell me, this one had a harsh winter this year or
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah.
I find that mad interesting too. Like I love how you know all that stuff.
Mhm.
I would definitely love to know all that. And don't you recognize bird calls and stuff like that too?
Yeah, well, I'm studying more birds, and I know a lot more because, I mean, when spring and summertime rolls around, I mean, it's just like this beautiful siren that you wake up to, and it just always sticks in my head, especially in the winter. And that's actually another thing I want to talk about, how important the seasons are to us. Like not in regards to our climate and how it affects the environment, but our appreciation for the different seasons. Because our appreciation of summer comes from the struggles that we suffer during the winter, and in the opposite way, the struggles that we face in the summer comes from the
It allows us to appreciate the winter.
yeah. So kind of forgot the chain that I was going there. But anyway, when you have winter that we're experiencing now, where it's like we barely had any snow.
Yeah.
When it's very very bipolar. I mean, it just look. It's nice to get when you come outside and it feels a bit like spring, and you see the birds and you start hearing the frogs that are coming out near in a nearby swamp. It's nice. You get a little reminder of spring. But then again, it's winter. It's not supposed to be like that. And while maybe many people would see the fruits of spring, I see a deviation from nature because it's not supposed to be like that. Well, I don't think so. Who knows? Maybe science doesn't our current understanding of science may be wrong in some way, but I doubt it is in that regards. And in this way, our whole entire year, it's more homogeneous. It's like you have a more
That's a good word.
stagnant environment, and you can't really appreciate the different seasons because the mere existence of the seasons give the other seasons its identity.
You said spring is your favorite. I like winter.
Actually, I like summer more. Summer is when finally all the leaves have grown into the deciduous trees. Summer is when everything has developed, it's reached its maturity, right? But as you see towards the end of summer and fall and the early fall, everything starts to slowly degrade back, which might be a bit depressing, but it's a return. It's a return to focusing on the home setting. When it starts getting colder and chillier, we pay more attention to the clothes that we wear or the hot cup of tea in the morning, right? As compared to summer, we're more focused on the refreshing cold glass of water or the refreshing feeling that we get when you jump into a pool, and we appreciate all the things we have when faced with more extreme environments. That's just the way I see it. I never really see people address it much. But I think it has, I guess it has some aesthetic value to it as well.
Okay, yeah. So, I don't know. I like the aesthetic of the winter. I like kind of bad weather, so I like the rain.
Yeah. Bad weather always gives an appreciation of your home, right? Because you have an immediate perception
Right.
of the nasty, unpleasant environment outside, and and then at that moment you feel all the material that you have and that gives you comfort, right? That you see it's cold, windy, nasty weather outside. It's raining, thunder, right? And you're home snuggled up in a blanket, or you got a hot cup of tea brewing. It's just it's it's about the contrast that creates a more defined sense of identity, and that you could when you're given a more defined sense of identity, that is when you can appreciate it more. I mean, I think that's a pretty straightforward logical path there. But
I agree with you.
Mhm.
I don't know. Like you said, we didn't get a lot of snow this year. I want to get a lot of snow because I like to build igloos.
well, yeah, that's
Like I only built one, but like 2 years ago, because I think there was not enough last winter either. And this one we only got snow one time, right?
yeah, barely. Like,
But it didn't stick. Like
yeah, and it's just sad. Like it just you never feel like it's not winter. Okay, technically it might be winter, but it doesn't feel like it. It still feels like fall or something.
okay, so we mentioned earlier in the podcast a couple minutes ago how we like to talk about things like anarchy and stuff.
Yeah, we are both.
We happen to be anarchists.
Yeah,
yes.
we both happen to be anarchists, but not the stereotypical type that just want to bring chaos into the world. Despite all the stereotypes that you see in the movies, we're more well-informed than anarchists that truly believe that anarchy can bring prosperity and happiness to the human race. But the way I see it, that anarchy doesn't call for a simple removal of government, right? It could be applied further beyond the government. It could be just a removal of artificial hierarchy, as I like to call it.
So that would be your definition of anarchy?
Yeah, removal of government or any kind of artificial hierarchies.
Okay, I would say that what I mean when I say anarchy usually is like without hierarchy.
Mm-hmm.
So if there was no hierarchy, i.e., without authority, same thing. I feel like. But I looked up before this the original definition I found on Google.
Mm-hmm.
Like after, like in common practice, like you said, it's the stereotype where it's like anarchy is the not ignoration. It's the ignoring of laws
Right.
or government or whatever,
Mhm.
or lack of government or laws.
Right, for
to
the
cause
for the
chaos.
sake for the sake of your own benefit.
Right, or whatever it is. Right,
Mhm.
but the one underneath that definition on Google is the one that we subscribe to. I think it's absence of government and absolute freedom of the absence of government and the absolute freedom of the individual, regarded as a political ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're striving for, because we want to. As anarchists, tell me if I'm wrong. As anarchists, we want to eliminate hierarchy or authority wherever we can. If it can be
Mhm.
totally right, that'd be good.
Right.
But because that would be the best for everybody, right?
Well,
Or
okay, so to apply my interpretation of it, that you're removing authority that is irrational. For example, when you take American civilization, have you ever met your leader? The president,
No.
right? Okay, I'm not exactly the leader, but the representative, basic representative of the government, right? No, and if you ask a lot of people, they've never met their leader, and most of the time they're informed by very few channels of thought, right? It can be Fox News, it can be MSNBC, it could be CNN, right? And we have become very alienated from the leader. What I think a leader should be is someone that you've studied yourself, someone that you know very well, and you can determine that he or she is smart, rational, and deserving of a higher status, right? In a small group, right? Because there is a I think a limit to how much we can understand how many different people, right? So America, it's a big group. What, 300 million? There's no way a human can comprehend knowing all those 300 million people very well and select one person to be, this he or she to be deserving of some higher position. I think it should be rationally determined, right, by a personal relationship, all right, and I think that's the best way to determine someone who is rational, right? Because anarchists, right, you don't take it to extreme and say completely reject any authority that your parents impose on you, right? I mean, you know that your parents know more than you. Well, let's say at a young age, that your parents know more than you, and you trust them to be capable of taking care of you, right?
Or yeah, wait, hold on. About the rational aspect. I understand what you're saying. Like the knowing them personally would allow you to rationally assess. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I definitely agree. And on top of that, I want to extend that. I think the way I think about anarchy, it's like I also take it to. I guess this is my interpretation, like you said. That's yours. Mine is like every decision would be made rationally. Really, like that'd be the ideal. I feel like that goes along with anarchy because.
Really? Wait, every decision is made rationally?
That we'd have to, if we had an anarchist system, right?
Uh-huh.
Even if it is small groups, like you say, and I think that's good as well. But even if it is small groups, you'd have, if you need to make a major decision for the group, right? Something needs to happen, whatever, or just basic decisions. I feel like many people or all of them would have to be involved in the decision, and we have to make the decisions rationally. So, like, let's say somebody does something bad, right? We need to rationally decide what to do. You know what I'm saying? By solidarity, as in working together.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? That's
also important when questioning rehabilitation versus punishment.
Exactly. I agree with you.
Right? Because, I mean, okay, let's say you're a determinist, right? And you would say
wait, now we're getting into determinism free will.
Okay, I'm just dipping my fingers into the water
here. Okay. Before you do that, let me just get this other point in about the how you said eliminating unnecessary hierarchy and stuff like that. Also, hierarchy of the parents, and then you said anarchists, like how you view it. Even in an anarchist group, you would select an individual, rationally, right? But to be of higher status.
Yes.
What I would say is that leaders, you can still have leaders in anarchy, but they don't. Which might sound contradictory, but wait. They don't need to be higher status, quote unquote, and they don't need to have power or authority, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? They might have expertise in certain subjects, so you elect them as a leader of something, or leader of the entire group, you can say. But instead of having all power or a lot of power, something like that, like in the current system we have, like they were a government, they could be called leader or whatever, but really be like an advisor. So this could be also applied to parenting too. So your parents, in anarchy or in an anarchist household, whatever, right? Parents don't need to be authoritative. I don't think. You know what I'm saying? They don't need to be authoritarian if they play an advisory role rather than a powerful role over you. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
to eliminate hierarchy.
I think if you take both absolutes, not will it work? I think it has to be a synthesis of the two, because if you advise someone, it's you agree it's not necessarily that person would take that advice.
Yes, that's right.
And that's assuming that the person knows well that advice could be helpful or not. And you can't assure that if it's a kid, right? So that's why I think some parent, it's objectively understood that the parent would know better than the kid, right?
Yeah, most of the time.
Well, yes.
For that's why kids inherently believe that whatever their parents say or whatever, right? It's like an evolutionary thing because they know more, right? But as you say, some kids might not take the advice, right? Or maybe a lot of them, whatever. That's why I think this rationality is an important thing to instill early on in education.
Right.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Definitely.
If you educate them on rational decision making,
Right.
listening to the parents might become obvious.
Yeah, because when you have households where it's all authority, you have no say of input, that forms a mentality in the kid to see authority that way. So in the government,
Right.
an unchanging constant, because you know that person, even if they disagree, they remove the government, right? So they would have to agree with it. Cognitive dissonance, right? They can't change that constant, so they change their perspective,
Right. Yeah.
right? So they just blindly obey whatever the government says, right? And I think it's a complete deviation from what postmodernism is, because postmodernism, one of the characters is this mentality of skepticism, right?
Right.
And when we don't have skeptics, right, going around and testing every little thing that the government does, guess what? The government's going to get their way, and I was delighted. I was very happy to actually I was browsing my local newspaper. They had, they went online and they have a comment section, right? And
Oh, you told me yes.
yes,
Okay.
yes. So it was an article about the study that the government did on a local landfill and its effect, and its effect on the nearby residents.
Yeah.
And and so it was the government that first let this landfill happen, right? And then did its study to see whether this landfill negatively affected the population nearby. Okay, use your logic, right? You have tons and probably millions and millions of tons of garbage, right?
Yeah.
And probably rats and seagulls and all kinds of rodents, all right, in one little tight packed area. And you have houses nearby. Are you saying you're gonna have no negative effects on the people? I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous to say that there wouldn't. And what the article said was that the government said, "Yep, didn't studies show that there was no significant effects or like no noticeable effects, negative impacts on the nearby residents." And I opened up the comment section and I saw a whole entire plethora of comments. Yeah, sure. How much were the inspectors paid for this? Like comments like that. And I was just delighted to see that because
That's awesome.
I think that's a new development. You wouldn't see that. I don't think you would see that type of stuff, in 2000, right, in the year 2000. So I think skepticism among people, among citizens, has risen significantly, which is a great thing. I mean, it's being skeptical towards the government is one of the best things could happen.
I agree with you. Skeptical towards everything, especially people in authoritative positions.
Yeah, exactly. I mean that's how authority is constantly checked, right? Because guess what? The government, if you have a whole entire force of the citizens, the government can't. No way it would be able to defeat all the citizens.
Right.
What, we
imagine.
have 300 million citizens.
Yeah. Imagine.
All right. I mean, you just can't match that. But I mean, that's still kind of a stretch. That's more conceptual, right?
Right.
Just comparing the numbers. But still, it's always good to be skeptical.
Okay.
Your input?
So yeah. About going back to what we said a couple minutes ago. You said that having an authoritarian household could instill in the mind of a child who would become an adult, right, to look up to authority, like that they always should be.
Like their how they perceive a relationship with authority has been cemented into their head by how their parents ruled their household.
Right, exactly. I just wanted to interject and add to that. Like, it can also affect how they see themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
right.
They could. Just an example could be like, my parents always told me what to do, so now I'm out of their household. I need somebody else to tell me what to do, and they look towards the government or maybe some religious leader or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So
no, yeah, and you do see that with a lot of people, or people can take a full 180 degree turn, okay, or maybe 178 degree turn. All right, there's still some variable, and they might become staunch anarchist, and because of how they see how flawed their relationship with authority was.
Right, it's situational.
And they changed. They decided to steer in the opposite direction. But I would say in my life, I didn't arrive to that. I think my arrival to my current political affiliation was more by chance. It was just not something related to my personal life. It was just me analyzing the world. I don't know. How about you? How did you come about to anarchy?
I don't really. I'm trying to think back because I know we were both. This is my understanding. We were both neocon at one point.
Yeah, yeah.
So okay,
Cringy neocons.
right, but we were very cringy, like about how we went about our beliefs as well.
Yeah.
But okay, yeah. So neocon, that had to be like early high school. So
Yeah, I would say so.
then you know what I remember? I remember taking the political compass test,
Mhm.
and it was constantly moving towards where I am right now. I'm on the bottom left, so like almost the very bottom left. But anyway, I remember when I first took it, I saw myself as on the right or whatever, right? Because I would watch Stefan Molyneux.
Right.
I don't
yeah.
know, mad people like that, right? So I would call myself a right conservative, whatever, right? But I took the political compass test, I think, for the first time, and I got on the left. So that was very interesting to me, and then
Well,
I started
I'm
looking into
also
stuff.
I'm also libertarian left, like in that
I know,
compass,
of
right?
course.
Because politically,
We're
I would
we're
like-
anarchists.
right? Yeah,
Of course, we're the
yeah. Of course. Yeah. You might your personal opinions don't really intersect with your political opinions, because, for example, gay marriage, I may be opposed to it or I may not be opposed to it. It doesn't matter. If you're an anarchist, there is no legality. You just let it happen because
Right.
that's not you. That's another person. That's another relationship. Like I don't want to associate myself with other people, right? I don't impose my opinions on others, and I think that's. I think that's such a like a healthy relationship, not alienating yourself, but not imposing strong opinions on others, right? Because strong opinions implies strong judgments, right? And obviously, a strong judgment doesn't always align with everybody.
I agree with you, but in some circumstances, like let's say we're in an anarchist society
Yes.
and we see a murder happening or something like that,
Right.
we'd interject.
Well,
but
okay. Just logically, nobody would support murder.
yeah. No, I agree with you. Yes. So on those topics that are relevant to well-being, basically, then basically you would it doesn't affect you, so you wouldn't.
Yeah. If it's non-violent and it doesn't affect, it doesn't impact me or
Right.
anybody in a negative way, why would you want to stop it?
Right. There's no reason.
Yes. Like
That's like if somebody likes a certain. Like somebody like art or whatever, and you hate
Uh-huh.
that they like art, you would go
Yeah.
tell them it sucks.
Like,
Like why would
I mean, it's absolutely, I don't know, from my perspective, it's absolutely ridiculous,
yeah.
right? Like, okay, somebody doesn't have the same music taste to me. That
Right.
doesn't mean that they can't listen to the music that they like and I don't like. I mean, it just, the way I see it, it's almost like a child's mentality when it comes to imposing what's to be liked or disliked, right? But
That's a great way to put it.
yeah, but to sidetrack a bit from the origins of our political affiliations, I wanted to focus a bit more on how I would see an anarchist society. The first thing to note is it's obviously not going to be the same thing as we have now. What I believe in a much more decentralized society, because in a decentralized society you have a lot less interaction, right? And that way you have a lot less conflict happening, because with more interaction means more conflict. I think that when you decentralize all these facets of our civilization, right, and lead to more fragmented town arrangements, small town arrangements, you are reducing the rational limit of domination, right? So when you centralize civilization in such a way as we have now, right, where you have so much money grouped and so many people grouped up in one place, right? You have people like Jeff Bezos, right, who's able to accumulate so much power and hoard so much wealth that in turn has, from my perspective, has created a lost future, a lost future that could have been a lot greater. And you might say, a lot of other people might say that Jeff Bezos is actually beneficial to our society because he created so many jobs. But the thing is, you have to also think about the other side. Look at how much wealth that he has, and which could have been distributed among all the other people. And I know that's kind of the trigger concept that might relate to communism or socialism, but it's a lot less. It's a lot less related to that, and it's a very general and conceptual understanding that if you have more money among everyone, that we'll be able to, we'd have more of an ability to buy what we like and or sell what we like. I don't know. What's your take on that?
I definitely agree with you. I think all. Okay, so we defined anarchy, right? So I think all anarchists, by our definitions, right, would want a decentralized society, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But you're more. Would you say you're still anarcho-primitivist or?
I definitely sign with a lot of points of anarcho-primitivism.
Okay, I do also.
Right. But so you have two sides to each critique. You have what needs to be removed and how what needs to be built, right? So anarcho-primitivism is about removing industrial society and replacing it with a primitive arrangement of human civilization, right? Or should I say uncivilization? Right?
Yeah.
The thing is, I agree that a primitive arrangement would be the best thing for Earth, for the sake of the health of the environments, and in general for the welfare of all animals, for all wildlife, plants, everything like that. The thing is, I still want to give myself some conveniences. I admit that. I admit that I want life easier for myself, and some might view that as immoral for not sacrificing my conveniences for the health of the earth. But I think that what should be more done is a very skeptical view on technology, right? So what we're living right now in this techno-capitalist society where we're welcoming technology at such a quick and rapid rate. It's, you might not notice it, but it's going to encroach upon our rights really quickly as it becomes integrated into this age of global corporatism, especially with things like chips, right? Like the biochips that we're able to be identified to, right? And
do those exist?
Yeah, they exist. Well, I don't think they're being developed so quick right now, but in the future they're probably going to be developed very rapidly. But the way I see it is that technology just compartmentalizes our lives, so it can be more easy. It can be made easier to integrate our lives into our corporate lives, merging them, making it completely dominated by the interests of the corporation rather than personal interests. Right? You see that even now that our whole lives are centered around getting a career, around doing a job. Right?
Right.
Where maybe in the early years of schooling, it's about teaching us basic elementary concepts just so we can exist in a society, that we can participate in a society, such as talking, such as reading, right? But as you go on and becomes more specialized, we're talking about, in high school when you're learning about specific topics, about science, history, so the humanities, the sciences, and then in college you start to get specialized, and you're funneling yourself into a life of duty towards someone else, towards another master, right?
Right. Towards speaking of colleges again, like we did in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I said this earlier. I also think college is a scam for some of those reasons I think you were alluding to, because we're told, from an early age, like whether it be in school or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're especially prepped in high school or whatever, but that college is absolutely necessary, you know what I'm saying, for everybody and stuff like that. I think that's scammy. But especially the problem I had, one of the biggest problems I had with college, before I went, with me not wanting to go, was that it takes so long.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Higher education takes a long time. Especially if you want to do something like I want to do, like psychology.
Mm-hmm.
I need to go to. I'm pretty sure that I need to go to college, right? Of course, and then I also need to go to graduate school.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's a lengthy process.
right, and especially it's a lengthy process, but I feel like it doesn't have to be because, like you said, you can learn a lot of this stuff on the internet. And stuff.
Right, but
But
I'm not denying that it's a perfect process. There's still a lot of
right, I
a
agree.
lot of smoke on the internet. There's so many useless things on the internet that is just like it's built around capturing your attention, getting your money, but at the same time, there is just so much stuff on the internet that could be useful to you. Like if you went back in time to any scientist or philosopher and told there's this huge catalog, I'm talking millions and millions of categories filled with all entire bits of information, they would have a stroke.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, maybe not a stroke, but
No, they would have a stroke.
They would be giddy like a little schoolboy with excitement because they can such an access to all this to this magnitude of information is something one could just dream of back then, right? But to have it now and for people to take advantage of it, it's almost like disrespecting the activity of learning and disrespecting all the previous generations that tried so hard to gain access to something like this, right? To gain access to information. I know that's kind of something an older person would say, but that's the way I see it. That's something that feels natural to me. That's just my opinion. Obviously, maybe it's good to splurge a bit and go into your vices. Maybe watch some dumb YouTube videos for a few hours. I'm not denying that, but you have so many good resources that has to be used. It doesn't not right away. You don't have to do it all day every day, but just use it. It's right there, right in front of you, a few taps away, right? But still, people can't do that.
Especially for things that they're interested in, like I don't know. There's videos for everything online, but
Yeah.
whatever. If you have a hobby, you can work to improve it by using resources on the internet.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
The thing is, people, kind of connecting back to our last podcast. Some people they just keep cutting the lawn down. They're stuck on some kind of habit, right? That just keeps the biodiversity low in their minds, right?
I love the expression.
They never let the grass grow, right? So, folks, remember, let the grass grow. Yes?
Yeah. Yeah. Hype.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes, all right. Well, folks, I think we've enlightened you enough. We hope to see you next time on the show, or the podcast. So, thank you for listening, and good night.
If there are any anarchists listening, leave a comment or message us in some way. We'd love to meet more.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Let's discuss.
All right, cool. Thank you for listening.
All right, thank you for listening, and good night.